black woman to receive the honor of president, a group broke out of the Women's City Club and formed yet another women's club. They did not agree that they should have an integrated group, and they moved to the city's outlying area and formed another women's city club. This was a group. They had taken in Johnny Mayberry, Emily Sloots was the writer of our book telling about our life. Reba Can was a social worker, Ruth Alston. They were women who were doing things in the city. And what I liked about the Women's City Club was that you didn't have to wait 100 years to make a change. You could make a change in any setting, any time we had a meeting. It was a matter of moments for us. And I always appreciated that. I thought of many other groups that had to debate and reject and resume time and time again. It's an honor to spend time with you tonight and to share it with Judge Jones, because I know he's a lawyer. He's got a lot of things to say that I can only say I participated in. But even at age 94, I find that I learn something new every day. My twin sister and I arrived in Cincinnati in the fall of *38. We had just graduated from Gallia Academy High School in Gallipolis, Ohio. Gallipolis. Founded by the French in 1790. All that history, and my mother always said, "Get up, get out." There's nothing really here for you, and I think that was her. I think she was very right about that. We were co-valedictorians of our class in Gallipolis, although our grandfather had to, as a freed slave, go to court and get the high school opened for his grandson. His sons had never been allowed to go to the high school there, even though they both were able to go and enlist for officer candidate school, be interviewed by young black officers from the South, one of whom, my dad had meningitis and couldn't bend at the waist, so he had a physical, a very positive excuse from the Army, going to the Army. Uncle Roy, on the other hand, was perfectly healthy. But one of the young white men from the South called him the N-word, and Uncle Roy promptly knocked him down. Well, he got a dishonorable discharge. And in our home, we put both discharges on the wall, and we're very proud of them. And that's the kind of home I came up in. I think I'll let Nate start here, because I'm going to tell you a bit about my grandfather, who lived almost to see us enter high school. He died in '37. We came here in '38, but we were there because he had been so insistent that we get our education. Jim?
I don't know where to start after that, Marian.
I just started.
Not being a native of Cincinnati, I'm going to assume the role this evening of sort of flying over 30,000 miles and looking backwards. And I think this program is very significant this evening because, as we know, the philosophers have told us, and Abraham Lincoln told us, that if we don't know the past, we'll be brought to relive it. And it's important that we understand our past, and unfortunately so few people know the past, particularly here in Cincinnati. I think if we look back to the beginning of discrimination, we go back to the very founding of this city and the establishment of the state of Ohio out of the Northwest Territory. When we go back there, we find that discrimination against black people was enshrined in our laws. etched into all of our institutions, and the legislative body made them a part of our laws, and the courts enforced those laws. And if that wasn't enough, Congress provided a backstop when it enacted the Fugitive Slave Acts to enforce the custom tradition of slavery. And Cincinnati was a hotbed for the enforcement of the Fugitive Slave Act. The streets that the marshals and that the federal officials used when they were rounding up slaves who came over from Kentucky still exist, right down on 2nd and 3rd Street. And we all know the Margaret Garner story, for she was captured right down there on the banks of the Ohio River, and rather than and she told those captors that rather than go back and have her children go back to slavery, she would kill them herself. And of course, she was charged with damaging property, because black people were property at that time. Now, those laws directly discriminated. The segregation laws were a direct attack upon people of color. And they, as I say, they became a part of the custom and the tradition and the institutions that govern lives in this state, in this part of the state. So much so that they gave rise to stereotypes, precepts, even after they were repealed. The effects of those laws went forward, and those laws had the effect of just totally distorting all of our institutions, so that persons thought that segregation and the discrimination against people of color was sort of mandated by the Lord. And then those who weren't sure about the Lord saw to it that in the Dred Scott decision in 1857, that the Supreme Court made it a part of our constitutional body of laws. Because Justice Roger Taney, in his opinion in Dred Scott, some 25 places in his opinion, he referred to slaves as of an inferior order, subhuman, and on and on and went. So that with the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation by President Lincoln and the Civil War, followed by the ratification of the 3 constitutional amendments over time, things began to change throughout the South, but not so much in Cincinnati. I had occasion to, when I was general counsel of the NACP, to oversee the school desegregation litigation in a number of Ohio cities. And in preparation for the case in Cincinnati, which did not go to trial, it was settled. In fact, it was settled after I left the court and was in Cincinnati. The research that we engaged in, that described conditions in Ohio created by law, revealed something that shocks the conscience today when people hear about it. So what I did, Marian, do you have something else to say? What I want to do is give you the microphone back, and then I will discuss with you some of the research